Yep, right now you are live. Greetings, real estate roundup family. Good evening to you. Happy Thanksgiving, happy Tofurkey Day, happy Friendsgiving Day, happy Indigenous People Day, all that good stuff. Greetings, class. What's going on, Dan Borrero? It's so good to see you, my brother.
Likewise, brother. It's always a pleasure to be on the screen with you, man. Love it.
Yeah, sorry for all the issues with the technical difficulties. Dan and I promise you, we are the most Jurassic internet people. I promise you. People think Dan looks at me like I'm an expert. I promise you, I am Jurassic when it comes to this.
This is true. Well, no, you are leaps and bounds ahead of me. I'm the Jurassic.
Well, if I'm Jurassic, you're what is it? Paleo? I don't know. You're like farther back. So anyway, tonight Dan and I like to come on and just talk to you about real estate investing in our lives and see let you know what we're doing. And also talk about market updates just to give you a little feel and a taste of what we think the market's going and what we're seeing in the market because added together, Dan and I have over 50 years of doing real estate. Good Lord.
This is true. 50 years at least.
That's crazy. So Dan, you want to start off today? We were talking about Airbnb, short-term rentals. You talk about a guy got a foreclosure. Let's start. Let's start with this guy that got lost his house based on buying.
It's based on an article that I read in the New York Post where this gentleman purchased a property based on assuming that his rent roll would be on Airbnb pricing, right? Meaning, you know, he was expecting to make this much money per month, and this is why he was able to pay for that property that much, right? He was able to pay price A as a result of him doing his numbers on cash flowing on Airbnb, right?
Mhm.
Short-term rentals. Well, as a result of New York City Council, as well as the mayor signing it into law rather. He signed
Mhm.
the bill into law.
Mhm.
What happened was that there's a whole lot of restrictions that came down on Airbnb owners, right, on the Airbnb business in the city of New York. Now,
Mhm.
I suspect that was the result of the hotel industry, literally putting all these lobbyists on payroll to go out there and lobby on their behalf to get rid of Airbnb in the city because it's costing them loads of money.
Mhm.
As soon as that law was passed, guess what happened for all the pricing as of January 1st? It all went
Tank.
up 20, 30% for
Or
the
goes up.
right. Because now they know they're not competing against Airbnb. They know that they're gonna have more demand for their hotel rooms because New York City is a huge tourist location, so the pricing goes up.
How you
Correct?
talking about hotel rooms go up?
Hotel rooms go up.
Okay, I didn't catch that.
These restrictions.
Got it.
So this gentleman was saying he's probably going to get his property's now going to be foreclosed on as a result of these restrictions. But
Mm.
so my argument's always been, and your argument's always been, when you're figuring out what's your after, in other words, the value of that property. So if you bought that property for 100,000, and you know that if you bought that property for 70,000, and you know that the property is going to need 30,000 of work, you're at 100, but the property's only going to be worth 100,000. One, you bought it wrong because you never because then what's your equity for having done the work, right?
Mhm.
And two, your biggest mistake would be figuring out your cash flow on short-term rental, which is always going to be higher than conventional. But what happens if these laws pass? What
Mhm.
happens if
When
these
they pass.
restrictions? Because it's going to happen,
Yep.
right? Now you're screwed,
Mm.
right?
Scary stuff, Dan.
So when the audience truly needs to understand this. When you guys are buying property, figure out your numbers at the worst case scenario. If it's conventional rental, not
Worst case.
not short-term rentals, not mid-term rentals. Yes, you'll make more money with mid-term rentals if possible, if you run it well, and
Mhm.
if you want to get into the hospitality business. I don't do it because I don't want to get into the hospitality business. I want to be a landlord. That's what I do. I stay in my lane.
You always said that. Well, Dan, what about renting that out, doing the Airbnb arbitrage? I mean, no doubt people approached you with that up in the
They
city.
have, and I just never done it because I'm stuck in my old ways. I'm an old dog, and I don't need it.
It's so funny you say that. You get to a point in life where a few extra dollars is not worth the space it's going to take in your brain.
Precisely, or the time that I have to keep talking to people. I don't want to talk to my tenants. If I talking to my tenants, it's not my tenant's fault. It's my fault.
Mm.
Because if I'm talking to my tenants, they're complaining about a repair that needs to be made. And if I had done the work properly and managed that job properly, they wouldn't need those repairs. There wouldn't be a leaky faucet. There wouldn't
Mm.
be a drafty window.
Mm. That's good. That's good stuff,
Right?
Dan.
There wouldn't be a leaky toilet. They wouldn't have to hear the neighbors from downstairs, right? Because that means I didn't do the job right. So
Hmm.
that's why I overkill on my work, but I make sure I put in like water fixtures. I will never put in cheap water fixtures. I put in only specific brands, right? Yes, they cost a little bit more money, but I'm not talking to my tenant.
We've been there. A water fixture, for people who don't know, it was a sink faucet or a toilet or what else?
Shower bodies, what
Shower
control what
valve. Yeah.
controls the hot
Whatever.
cold water in your shower.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you guys, I'll even share that. I only use Kohler's, American Standard,
Delta.
and Delta. Those are the
Mm.
only three I'll put in. And I
Uh,
prefer to use Kohler.
yeah, it's top of the top. It's so funny when I hear you say that, Dan, that we all bought that cheap stuff. Every time I gotta go back and replace it, man. You pay it
Right.
twice.
Not include forget what you're paying. Now you got to coordinate between the tenant, your handyman, or the plumber that's got to go do that. Right? What
Tell
about the time that it takes between the coordinating all that?
this hell, man. You gotta,
Hell,
you know what? You only know that from doing it, but tell people which ones you don't use.
I don't use the Home Depot one, the Pfizer it's called. I don't use Moen. Moen used to be actually a really
Mowing was
great.
okay back in the
No, it
day.
used to be a really good water fixture, but ever since they started, the company got bought out and they transferred everything to China and they started making it in China. It's all plastic on the inside and it's garbage.
Yeah. I want to say a name, and I want to know how this makes you feel. Tell me how it makes your stomach feel. Project Source.
Don't touch it.
You can
It's
tell we're
like
like old
it's like
geezers.
it's like even paint. Like you go to Home Depot, you get the Glydian. It's not a bad paint, but then you got to paint 3 times,
Yeah,
right? You get the better Bear
bears one
or
time.
Benjamin Moore or the better Sherman Williams,
That's where I go.
right? And you could get away with 2 coats. The best part is I tell everybody, use the same color. I use the same color for every single one of my apartments.
Yeah, renters don't care. Tenants don't give a crap about the
I'll,
color. They
I'll,
just
I'll
don't
even
care.
I'll even share it with like if my property's in New York or Jersey, ashen tan. It's a grayish tan, right? Uh, if it's in Florida, I forget the name, but it's silver. And by the way, guys, you could take a Sherman Williams paint and go to Home Depot with the name, and they'll match it.
Yeah, to match it up. Yeah, I find good deals at Sherwin-Williams. So we're going to talk about Airbnb a little bit. Then I'm going to get to a tenant. I have several vacancies now. Your vacancy stacking up, Dan? Is this something you going through too, or is it you noticing
I am
anything?
not, man. You shouldn't say that. I had one apartment in Florida. Took me literally a month and a half,
To get
and
them?
and for the first time in Florida, I had to turn. I've never had this many turn downs. I had like 7 turn downs, meaning 7 applications in that month and a half, and I turned them down.
You don't want
Uh,
to deal with them. Yeah, I
no.
hear you.
So it took me a month and a half to rent that. Usually, my Florida properties are off the shelf like that. My New York property, I had another one, 2 of them actually. A 3 bedroom. Took me 2 months to find a decent tenant for that one. I
Mhm.
just found it, but I turned down like 40 applications for that.
Oh wow. Well, yeah, we got to do a class. Well, now that Dan and I we're working on the ultimate landlord's guide. Then that's something that I want to make sure people understand. Like our brains are like this circle, this space. I think we talked about it before. If an applicant is taking up a lot of space in your brain before they move in, I just had to whack somebody last week. I'm like, lady, you calling me 8 o'clock in the morning? Is your application ready? I'm getting nervous.
There's
So just think
signs.
about that.
There
Think
are
about that.
signs. There are many
So
signs, and we're going to
yeah,
be discussing that in the class.
yeah. Then I want to show. I think we show the screen. I forgot to bring up AirDNA. So I had a situation last week. I had to take back what I do. I'm a landlord like you. I don't want to do short term rental. I mean, even if I'm gonna make another $500, it's just not worth it to me. So I'd rather take 500 less and spend less time. So if I got to spend 7 hours a month on a piece of real estate to make $500, I'm not interested. If I got to spend 1 hour a month, I want to make less money, or even 30 minutes, or even 10 minutes, or whatever. I want to make less money. So is that how you look at it?
Pretty much, I do, because the way I look at it is, if I got to spend more time for that $500 versus having spent that same time doing something that I already know how to do, that I could do quickly, and I could, let's say, I don't have to speak to that person for 3 hours for the month, over the course of the month, but I can make $500 just speaking to one person for in a half an hour, 40 minutes. I don't want to know about that other person.
Yeah, that's
I
no
want
way
to I
better.
want to make my money the quickest and most efficient way. And guys, I want everyone here to understand. I understand $500 a month is a lot of money. It's not a little bit about money. But the reality is that the more you spend at your profession, the more efficient you become, the better you become, the more valuable your time becomes. So does
That's
the
right,
word
bro.
no. The word no becomes more valuable, because if you don't start using the word no, there'll be people eating up your time, which in turn really eats up your income potential.
Time vampires. So that house I had to take back. I rent my properties out to other investors, and then they do short term rentals. But I had a guy that I rented one of my units out for $1,500 a month. He started paying late March, April, May ish. So he was paying $1,600 a month, and then October he paid nothing. November nothing. So I asked him, why is the rent so late? And he said, look, man, Airbnb is just not what it was. I'm like, well, why aren't we talking about this so we can just figure out how I can turn this thing around myself and get out of this short term thing? So he sends me a text message and he says, you know what? I only made $900 for September and $900 for no for October. So he's not making any money, not making no money. And I'm not mad at the guy. He actually did a great job while he was there. But I did some research too, Dan. I wanted to show the viewers, Dan. Hmm?
It saddens me, because most of it sounds to me like you had a good tenant, things weren't going well, and he didn't know how to come and approach you to talk to you about it.
That's right. Communication, Dan.
Yeah.
Communication. You and I were just talking about a multi-million-dollar deal the other day, 2 days ago, and it's like, boom, 1.8 million, 700,000, mortgage, deed of trust, X amount of percent. You explain it so slowly and matter of factly, but I think that's because you've been trained and you've been turned into a person that talks about these important things all the time.
That's what it is. Like I said earlier, the more you do it, the better you become. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that
Yeah,
compliment, though.
yeah, that was cool. That'd be $50 later too. I got the $50. So I went to Airbnb, AirDNA, Dan, just to see what was out there in my market. Right? Y'all can't. Let me zoom in one more time. So this is my little town here. This is Hampton, Virginia. This is where that particular house was. And when he told me that the market was down, I'm not thinking the guy's BSing me. I'm thinking, Dan, just like if you say, Chris, this is this. I'm thinking, all right, cool, market's down, whatever. So I went and did my research, and before these are the zip codes in my town. So these are the amount of units that are available. 51 units in that one zip code, 71 right here, 63.
You know what? Let's break this down a second. Give me those numbers again. How many in that one area?
I'm
Tell
gonna
me.
add them up. 51,
51. What else?
68,
68,
another 51,
51,
71,
71,
63,
63,
and 43.
and 43.
You might as
That's
well add this last one in here for 54.
plus 54.
Yeah.
So it's a
Good
total of
God.
401 units. So let's round it off to 400. 400 units in a populated area of how much?
This area, Dan, we might have 80,000 people. Let me see how many people in Hampton Roads, Virginia. Hampton, Virginia population. 137 people. That was
100,
2 years ago.
okay, let's say 138,000.
Yeah.
Guys, 401 doors that are available, not including the hotel rooms that are in the area.
Oh shoot, that's got to be in the thousands.
Correct. It's unsustainable.
Yeah.
So what? Tell everybody what it's down to, the rental rates on Airbnb in those areas.
Well, this is not being the right here is telling me $145 a day, but I want to talk to you about
Yeah, but look at what
occupancy.
it says. Occupancy, 47%.
47%. And don't forget, Dan, that daily rate includes cleaning too. You got to make that's added in. So cleaning could be $75. So we're at 47% occupancy, 56%, 54, 49%. That's what really scared me.
So it's 50%. So essentially,
50%.
you're only renting that out for half the month,
15 days, Dan.
and you got to pay the electric, the gas, the water, the sewer, and the garbage removal. So that $147 a month, how much are you really making?
Very little.
Right.
Very little.
That's
Very
not a
little.
sustainable model.
You mentioned that earlier, sustainable, Dan. What makes something? How do we know if one of these things are going to be sustainable, dude? How the hell do we know?
So the way I would look at it is okay, if my net, assuming it rents 3/4 of the month, if my net is going to be 2,000 a month, and my conventional rent would be 1,300 a month, that's $700 more cash flow per month. That's $8,400 more per year. That's a significant number to increase your cap rate, right?
Got it.
Especially on a single family house in that area.
Yeah.
But if from the looks of it, your net is maybe 1,300, and let's say if your rent could be 1,800, why would you bother doing that? You should go back to convention.
It's not worth it, man. This is not worth it. So I pulled it off and I put it on. Then I pulled it on Section 8, right? And I wanted to show you. I told you I got that application in. Y'all, I'm going to actually show you. This is what you have to deal with when you screen applicants. I'm going to show you. This is an email that I got today, maybe an hour ago. It's so cool. Y'all get this real time. So the guy paid $50 to do an application for this rental unit that I'm doing. And he circled that he had an eviction. So I wanted to show y'all these are the things that you have to deal with. You have to discern whether you are going to deal with this tenant or not. And then I want to read this to you so you can help me figure out, or even I want you to know your opinion about this little notice that he put on his application. I don't know if he or she. I had an apartment in 2018 that I ended up leaving in 19 due to an infestation of fleas. And the guy actually sent me some pictures, Dan. During the time I was in a fourplex and the two tenants at the bottom left. One moved out completely and the other one left her apartment abandoned with everything in it. I'm positive that both of them had pets, but I don't know that the one left the apartment left it disgusting. I was the only one left in the building for months, and during the time I kept having bites on me that got worse over time. I eventually found out that my apartment was infested with fleas after hiring an expert. However, I didn't leave. I didn't even own any pets. I had fleas in my couches, mattresses, and etc. I ended up leaving the apartment to stay with my mom until they resolved the issue. It took over a month, and I decided to just move out without the proper knowledge. I went to court, and the judge used a term that I was unfamiliar with, which later I found he wanted me to fax over my proof. I went to my court case and lost by default because I never sent the paperwork in to the second court date. I actually suffered PTSD from that experience, and it took months for me to get over the feeling that something was always biting me. So he did get an eviction, Dan. So this is the letter, y'all. Y'all listen, this is real time. This is as real as it gets. The way he's making this. So get a follow for Dan. I want to hear Dan's opinion, but make sure you give a follow to Dan Borrero at USA Land Venture and to me as well. And click that thumbs up for if you're enjoying and getting some value. Dan and I are here to give you value. We might give you a little entertainment, but we want you guys to succeed.
Yeah, we're here for value, guys. We're here to serve you guys.
All right. All right. So this is the application. I got the application. Once again, I'm gonna shut up. I got the app. What the question is, have you been evicted? So I'm presuming that this person is saying yes, but this, Dan. So go ahead.
I see so many things in that one.
What do you see, Dan? Pull it apart, man. Pull it apart.
I see excuses after excuse after excuse. I don't want people with excuses. I want solution-based people, right? So first she's blaming the tenants, then
Yeah, the
she's
ones
blaming
that
the landlord, then she's blaming the exterminator,
the court system here.
then she's blaming the court system.
Wow.
Now she has PTSD, PTS what?
PT, post traumatic stress disorder. I think that's what that
Disorder.
is. Oh wow, Dan. I didn't even see all that. You saw a lot of
At
that,
what
Dan.
point is it her fault? Let's assume the fleas were not her fault.
Might not have been.
It took you months to realize that you couldn't sustain getting bit every single night. It took you months to realize that something that is obvious that you had to actually go pay an expert exterminator to come in. I assume they were exterminator to come in and say you got fleas.
Mm-hmm.
The way
Wow.
I look at it is when tenants come to me and they say, "Listen, I was in eviction court because the landlord was a pig. They was rat infested, roach infested. But the whole time there, I'm assuming she wasn't paying her rent. That's why they took her to court,
Mm.
right? So the whole time there was so I guess it was good enough to live in, even though it was roach infested and mice infested and flea infested and whatever else was the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It was good enough to live there as long as you weren't paying rent.
Mm.
It was good enough to live there for free while you were robbing rent.
Wow. Is it the same thing here, Dan?
I don't know, but I see excuses. So that in itself tells me I don't want to. Now,
Mm.
I have taken tenants that have been down to eviction court or bankruptcy because I followed my gut. Because when I
Mm.
looked at everything else prior to that one address they were at, everything was always good. Credit score was good, no housing issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got a steady job. There might be some truth to what they're saying. Do you see what I'm saying? Like it has to make sense. But a letter like that tells me I saw 4 or 5 excuses in one small paragraph.
Wow, that is deep. Damn, Dan, you are. Y'all see this? This is the value. This is what Dan. When you're in it, that's why I like you looking at it because I'm thinking about I want cash flow. I got taxes, insurance, mortgage, all this stuff's in my mind, which I'm trying to get a tenant as fast as possible, obviously.
Yeah,
But
but
then,
Chris, I hear victimhood.
yeah, I don't
I'm a
want that.
victim. I'm a victim. I'm a victim. I was a victim by the landlord. I was a victim of the legal system. I was a victim by the tenants below me. I was a victim by the fleas. I was a victim by the exterminator. And now I'm a victim of this illness that I have.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I don't need
Golly,
victims. I need survivors, people who are going to go out there and find solutions to problems.
Dan, you're a monster with that. Listen, y'all put a thank you, Dan, on the chat, y'all. Dan, this is real live stuff.
Now, guys, I want everyone here to understand this. Chris and I are not attorneys. We're not housing attorneys. Chris and I go according to the laws, whatever the laws are in your specific area. If this was New York City, I cannot use an eviction against a tenant.
What?
Yes, I
This is
cannot use
ludicrous.
previous housing reports against deciding whether I want a tenant or not.
Why
So, what I'm
not?
going to say to everyone here is prior to you doing the interview process or taking an application or speaking to a tenant, you first need to figure out what the laws are, the housing laws are, not only on the federal side, not only on the state side, but then in your micro area, meaning your municipality. The
Yeah.
one thing you do not want to do is violate someone's rights because that
Mm-mm.
leads into much bigger problems.
Yeah, you're in trouble. Dan, I can't think of a better reason to not rent to somebody if they get an eviction for not paying. Why can't you do that? I don't get it. It don't make sense to me.
In the city of New York, you no longer can do that.
I'm saying, do you know why?
Yeah, because we're run by a bunch of morons. Because you got a bunch of politicians trying to tell business people how to run their business.
Quinn says, thank you, Dan. I didn't think of it like that. I didn't, you know what? This is why it's important to not only to put yourself in a room with people like Dan and pay the money to come to meetings like that. So I didn't even tell you that, Dan. I'm looking to come there December. My birthday's the 4th. So I'm trying to work it all out. And I'm just going to pay the money to go extra for Broadway, and I want to see if we can put together a lunch and learn.
Well, you need to let me know, because then if we're gonna do a lunch and learn, we need to promote it like now.
I know now, so I'm working on that right now. But we'll talk about that on Monday. So, all right. Anything else we got to share? We got the Airbnb.
How many people we have on here?
We got 30 people.
Great, love it.
So make
Guys,
sure.
I go to my. I need people on my YouTube page. So go to USA Land Ventures, please.
That was a good one. Yeah, we go USA Land Ventures. Dan is one of my mentors, friend, confidant, business associate. We do stuff together, and it's just an honor to be on here with you, Dan. You had a landlord. Oh, we talked about it already. So we did tenant, Section 8. Dan, are you digging more into that? Or are you good with your traditional paying tenants?
Look, the reality is this: I have had Section 8 tenants. I do have a few of them on in my properties. I don't like taking Section 8 in the city of New York. Not to say I wouldn't, because I would consider it. Yes, it's all application based.
Yeah.
The problem here in the city of New York is not the tenants. The problem is Section 8, right? You call there, the phone will ring for 45 minutes, and when they pick up the phone, they're pissed off that you had the audacity to ask them to work, right? Then versus when I deal with Section 8 personnel in New Jersey or in Florida, my other properties there, they're very polite, they're very helpful. They respond to emails. They actually pick up the phone. If they don't pick up the phone, you leave a voicemail. They always call you back the same day, right? So it's easier. It all depends on what state and what municipality you're in.
Got it.
So I can't say anything about Section 8 bad. No.
Let's just talk about, before we leave real quick, just mom and pop landlords out there that's concerned about this recession and money's tightening up. For me, I know, tried and true, I'm telling you, this is how I've paid off several pieces of real estate. Managing the asset over time, we call it wealth management. Dan, stuff tightening up, people, income's going down. I'm trying to find out how many realtors left the business. I was Googling that. Do you know?
I forget. I was just an article on that several months ago. It was a substantial amount of realtors that left the business 3 months ago.
Thousands.
Yeah. Look, the reality is, just like every business, when it's easy, everybody wants to be a realtor.
Everybody do it.
I remember in 2009, realtors disappeared. They gone, history, right? 2017, 18, all of a sudden they're all coming back in, right? New blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great business. Now they're poof, because they actually got to work now. Before it was all you did was breathe and you sold the house. Mm-hmm. Now you actually got to go out there and work.
I love it. So I was going to say, for mom and pa, would you say Section 8 is a good option for them to sustain the recession that's here now? I mean,
the reality is, bro, you hit the nail on the head, man. You're a great defensive landlord, meaning like during COVID, Kris didn't worry one bit.
Mm-hmm.
I was sweating it. I was worried because the majority of my tenants were conventional tenants.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thanking God for the Section 8 tenants I had. So it's a great defensive position to be in.
Got it. Okay, y'all.
But again, manage your tenants.
Gotta manage them.
Right? If you don't manage your tenants, and that starts from the beginning. That
don't matter what you do.
From the time that from the point that you pick the realtor to represent you to rent the apartment. You've got to manage the whole entire process of that application process.
That's a good point, Dan.
Manage your tenant.
You got to manage it, man. People think there's no passive income. Thank you, Dan. Jamar, just stay in touch with us. We'll probably do something in the near future, but you can always get the training. Just send us an email. Eric Bellamy says lunch and learn. He's looking to do it. What up, E? I see you, E. Baltimore is just like New York. I'm guessing the government's rough. TTOO says. Dan, Chris Wise says, would you recommend buying subject to in New York State, Dan?
If you could do it in New York State, it's just real hard to do because this is a real litigation state and lawyers will try to nix it. But it's possible.
I'm going to get Dan, man. We're going to get Dan on sub too one day. What's it? All right, Dan, follow USA Land Ventures. Like this content if we've helped you at all. We're giving you play-by-play.
Tell everybody we're going to be coming on YouTube now every Sunday. We may even have to miss some IG Sundays because I think this platform is a lot better for us. But
it's easier
to be talking, real estate updates, things that are happening in the market every week.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Take care.
Peace. Yep.